Deleuze and Guattari rewrote reality. Here's a thousand plateaus in one explosive idea. Desire grows like a rhizome.
All right, today we're diving into one of philosophy's most infamous and, let's be honest, challenging books, A Thousand Plateaus by Gilles Deleuze and Deleuze Guattari. But here's the secret. You're not supposed to read it cover to cover. It's designed as a toolbox for thinking in totally new ways. So, let's open it up and see what we can build.
Right from the jump, the authors throw us into the deep end with lines like this. They're telling us that philosophy shouldn't be about just passively describing the world as it is, like taking a photo. No, it's about actively creating new paths, new ways to navigate reality. It's about drawing a map for a place that doesn't even exist yet.
Okay, so the first and most important rule of A Thousand Plateaus is this. It's not a normal book. Seriously. The authors themselves tell you not to read it from start to finish. You're meant to treat it like a record you can drop into anywhere, or, even better, like a toolbox full of concepts you can grab and use to invent something new.
So, to help us get our bearings in this pretty wild territory, here's our plan. We're going to look at the big problem the book is trying to solve, then we'll explore its radical solution, and finally, we'll pull out a few of its most powerful and fascinating tools.
So, what's the central problem they're taking on? Well, they argue that for centuries, almost all of Western thought has been organized in one way and one way only, like a tree. They call this arborescent thought, which is really just a fancy way of saying tree-like thinking. And once you see it, you'll see it everywhere. Think of a family tree, tracing back to a single ancestor. Or an org chart at a company, with the CEO at the top. Even the way we classify animals, they all demand one single origin, one solid foundation, and then neat, tidy branches.
So what's the big deal with thinking like a tree? Well, it limits us. It forces everything into this rigid, top-down structure where everything has its proper place. It forces you into either-or choices. Now, it can be useful for organizing things for sure, but it's also incredibly restrictive. It boxes us in. So, if the tree is the problem, what's the solution? This is where Deleuze and Guattari introduce their most famous and maybe their coolest idea, the rhizome. So what on earth is a rhizome? Well, think of crabgrass, or a mushroom network under the forest floor, or even the internet. That's a rhizome. It has no center, no top or bottom, and it can sprout and connect from literally anywhere. And that multiplicity principle, n-1, it's a bit weird, but the idea is to always subtract the idea of a single unifying leader. It's a system of pure connection, always just short of being one unifying thing. This really sets up the central battle of the book. It's a showdown between two ways of seeing the world. On one side, you've got the rigid, rooted, top-down tree. And on the other, you have the flexible, spreading, interconnected rhizome, a map that's always changing, always open to being redrawn.
And you gotta understand, this isn't just some abstract philosophical theory. This is a call to action. It's an urgent invitation, almost a command, to think and to live in a different way, to value messy connections over neat divisions, and constant movement over being stuck in one place.
Okay, so if the book itself isn't a linear tree that you climb from bottom to top, what is it? Well, each chapter is what the authors call a plateau.
They actually got this idea from an anthropologist named Gregory Bateson. So forget about a chapter that builds up to some big conclusion. A plateau is more like finding a really good groove in a song and just staying there for a while. It's about reaching a stable level of intensity, a certain vibe, and just exploring everything that's possible right there in that space.
So what this means for you, the reader, is total freedom. You can literally jump from the chapter on becoming animal straight to the one about nomad war machines, and you won't be lost. The goal isn't to finish the chapter, it's to hang out in the idea, play with it, and see what new thoughts or connections you can make. And that brings us to what is maybe the most mind-bending, and honestly, the most exciting concept in the entire book. And that's the idea of becoming. Now, this is absolutely crucial. Becoming is not about imitating something. You don't become a wolf by acting like one. Instead, it's about forming a real, unexpected connection with something totally different from you. And in that process, you both change. It genuinely alters who you are and what you're capable of doing. Their go-to example is the wasp and the orchid. See, the orchid has evolved to look like a female wasp. A male wasp comes along, thinks it's a mate, and tries to couple with it, pollinating the flower in the process.
This is where deterritorialization happens. It's a mouthful, I know, but all it means is you get pulled out of your usual context. The wasp is no longer just a wasp, it's now part of the orchid's reproductive machinery. And the orchid is no longer just a flower, it's become a part of the wasp's sex drive. Together they form a new thing, a wasp-orchid system. Neither one is the same as before, they've become something new, together.
This is all about finding new combinations and new abilities. Take this quote from the writer Vladimir Slepian. To solve the problem of hunger, he asked how he could create a becoming dog. He wasn't literally trying to turn into a dog. He was experimenting, by putting shoes on his hands, for instance, to radically shake up his body's relationship with the world, to find a new way of moving and feeling that wasn't strictly human.
Okay, I know what you might be thinking. After all this talk of rhizomes, plateaus, and becoming a dog, what does any of this actually have to do with real life? What's the point?
Well, the answer brings us right back to where we started, the toolbox. The whole point of these concepts isn't to build some perfect philosophical castle in the sky. The point is that they're useful. They are pragmatic tools like a crowbar or a wrench, designed to pry open rigid ways of thinking and create new possibilities. So this philosophical toolbox gives us real, concrete ways to break free from that restrictive, tree-like thinking in our own lives. It helps us find what they call lines of flight, which are basically escape routes from old habits and closed systems. The goal is to build more creative, open, and non-hierarchical connections, whether that's in your job, your art, or just your day-to-day life. It's a toolkit for engineering a little more freedom.
Ultimately, A Thousand Plateaus isn't really a book to be understood. It's equipment to be used. It's a profound invitation to start experimenting with your own thinking and your own life. So it really only leaves you with one question. What new maps are you going to draw?